Okay, let me tell you something. There's a guy who parks in the same parking lot every morning. A 2011 Honda Civic, faded paint, small dent on the rear bumper. His coworkers look at him and think, he must be struggling, maybe living paycheck to paycheck. But what none of them know is this. The guy has $4.2 million in index funds. His house is paid off. His kids' college funds are fully loaded. He could retire tomorrow if he wanted. He drives that Honda on purpose. Why am I telling you this? Because I worked at a bank for years, and the people sitting across that desk taught me everything, both what works and what destroys people. And one day, I said to myself, I can't be at peace without sharing what I know, so I quit. And here you are. According to the Millionaire Next Door research, the median price millionaires pay for cars is just $31,367. Experian's automotive study shows that 61% of people earning over $250,000 drive Hondas, Toyotas, or Fords. Not BMWs, not Mercedes. Ordinary cars that blend into any parking lot. On the other hand, 8% of people earning under $100,000 own luxury vehicles, meaning they're driving $60,000 cars while making $50,000 a year. One group looks wealthy. The other group actually is wealthy. And these two groups almost never overlap. This video isn't about being cheap. It's about understanding something most people never figure out. Looking poor might be the most important financial strategy you can adopt in your life. The research on this is overwhelming. People who actually build wealth look nothing like people who appear wealthy. Thomas Stanley and William Denko studied millionaires across America for decades. Their findings shattered every assumption about what wealthy people look like. 80% of millionaires are first-generation affluent, meaning they didn't inherit the money. They built it themselves. Half have lived in the same house for over 20 years. They're more likely to drive a Ford than a Bentley. The researchers found that millionaires were concentrated in middle-class and blue-collar neighborhoods rather than affluent ones, which surprised even them. The explanation is simple. High-income white-collar professionals spend their income on luxury goods and status symbols. They're playing a visibility game. They want everyone to know they've made it. Real wealth builders play an entirely different game. They understand that every dollar spent on appearances can't compound over 30 years. Oh, they've done the math. Dave Ramsey's research on millionaire behavior confirms the pattern. Toyota sits at number 1 among the car brands most driven by millionaires. Honda is second. Ford is third. BMW doesn't appear until number 6. Mercedes doesn't make the list at all. Jeff Bezos drove a Honda Accord for years. Mark Zuckerberg was spotted in an Acura TSX. Google co-founder Larry Page drove a Toyota Prius. Warren Buffett still lives in the same house he bought in 1958 for $31,500. These aren't people who can't afford better. They are people who decided that looking wealthy isn't worth the cost of actually being wealthy. The psychology behind this choice reveals something important about how wealth actually works. Sociologist Veblen introduced the concept of conspicuous consumption over a century ago. His core observation was this: people don't just buy products for their utility, they buy signals. Luxury brands aren't selling products, they're selling narratives. A $50,000 watch tells time with exactly the same precision as a $50 watch. The extra $49,950 buys something else entirely. The ability to signal status to others. Research shows that people who view money as a symbol of power and success report lower levels of financial satisfaction. They buy expensive things to keep up with others and prove their worth, often without tracking or planning their overall spending. The irony is brutal. All the pursuit of looking wealthy creates the very conditions that prevent actual wealth. Every leased BMW represents a monthly payment that could have gone into investments. Every designer handbag represents index fund shares that weren't purchased. Every status symbol has an opportunity cost measured in decades of compound growth. A 2025 Empower study found that 62% of everyday millionaires still budget, shop for deals, and avoid extravagant lifestyles even after crossing the $1 million threshold. They understand that the habits that built wealth are the same habits that preserve it. The visibility of wealth creates problems that invisibility avoids entirely. According to Javelin Research, cybercriminals stole the identities of 6.4% of the general public. That number jumps to 8.1% for high-net-worth individuals with $1 million or more in assets. A joint study by Experian and the Department of Justice found that affluent Americans are 43% more likely to be affected by identity theft compared to the general population. The more visibly wealthy you are, the bigger the target on your back. High net worth individuals face what security experts call whaling attacks. Unlike mass phishing scams, these are meticulously crafted operations using profiles assembled from social media, data breaches, and open-source intelligence. Attackers impersonate trusted advisors, private bankers, or family members to extract sensitive information or authorize fraudulent transfers. Synthetic identity fraud is now the fastest-growing type of financial crime in the United States. Criminals use real and fabricated data to create credible-looking identities that can be used to open accounts, transfer money, or corrupt an entire family's financial ecosystem. The Federal Trade Commission reported that Americans lost $10.3 billion to fraud in 2023. Investment fraud alone, through sophisticated schemes specifically targeting affluent individuals, accounted for $4.6 billion of those losses. Looking wealthy announces exactly what you have. Looking poor protects it. The social dynamics of visible wealth create pressures that compound over time. When you drive a luxury car, people assume you can afford expensive dinners. When you wear designer clothes, all colleagues expect you to pick up the tab. When you live in an affluent neighborhood, the baseline spending of everyone around you inflates your own expectations too. Research on social comparison shows that status is relational. It only exists relative to others. In high inequality environments, status signaling becomes more aggressive. The distance between tiers widens. Comparison intensifies. Behavioral studies show that higher income individuals tend to exhibit increasing social distance from lower income groups, different schools, different neighborhoods, different social circles. Over time, this produces echo chambers of class. The person driving the old Honda maintains access to a wider range of social connections. Nobody treats them differently because of perceived wealth. Nobody expects them to pay more than their share. Nobody resents them for having more. And this social invisibility provides something that money literally cannot buy. Authenticity in relationships. Research shows that high net worth individuals frequently experience a paradox of increased power paired with decreased trust. Evaluating relationships becomes harder. They can never be certain whether someone likes them or their money. The person who looks middle class while being quietly wealthy avoids this problem entirely. Their friendships are based on who they are, not what they have. Their relationships weren't filtered through the lens of perceived financial status. The authors of The Millionaire Next Door created a framework that separates wealth builders from wealth destroyers. PAWs are prodigious accumulators of wealth. UAWs are underaccumulators of wealth. The categories have nothing to do with income and everything to do with behavior. A janitor earning $50,000 a year can be far more of a PAW than a doctor earning $700,000 a year. Spending habits determine the category, not the salary. The formula is simple. Multiply your age by your pre-tax annual household income, then divide by 10. A 40-year-old earning $150,000 should have approximately $600,000 in net worth. Those below this threshold are underaccumulators, spending their income rather than building wealth. UAWs live in luxury, style, and comfort. They are often highly educated professionals with demanding careers. They understand compound interest intellectually, yet they just don't practice it behaviorally. The spending habits of UAWs stem from what researchers call the better-than theory. Every purchase represents an attempt to signal superiority. A better car than the neighbor. A better watch than the colleague. A better vacation than the sibling. These financial choices are called million-dollar choices, because if the choice hadn't been made, the person would have had a net worth exceeding 1 million. The cigarette example from the original research makes the math visceral. One couple smoked 3 packs a day for 46 years. The cumulative cost of those cigarettes exceeded the value of their home by $33,000. Had they invested that money instead, the portfolio would have exceeded $2 million. Status purchases work the same way. The difference between a $30,000 car and an $80,000 car, invested over 25 years at 7% annual returns, amounts to roughly $270,000. That's the real price of looking wealthy. The cultural programming that drives visible consumption starts early and reinforces constantly. Stanley and Denko observed that young people are conditioned with the belief that those who have money spend lavishly, and if you don't show it, you don't have it. This conditioning comes from everywhere. Television portrays glamorous lifestyles. Social media displays curated consumption. Advertising promises that purchases will transform your identity. The message is consistent. Wealthy people look wealthy. If you want to be seen as successful, you need to display your success through consumption. This belief is flat out wrong, but its effects are very real. Someone who internalizes this narrative will spend their entire income maintaining appearances. They'll finance a lifestyle that signals wealth while destroying their actual net worth. They'll reach 55 with a closet full of luxury goods and a retirement account that can't sustain them. The person who rejects this narrative builds wealth quietly. They invest while others consume. They compound while others display. They reach 55 with options that the visible spender will never have. The quiet luxury trend represents a partial correction to decades of conspicuous consumption. According to Bain & Company's 2024 luxury report, affluent consumers are increasingly prioritizing longevity and craftsmanship over conspicuous consumption. Stealth wealth has become a form of modern social currency. A 2024 Accenture survey found that 52% of global shoppers now prefer influencers who showcase practical luxury rather than aspirational excess. The cultural tide is shifting toward understated living. After the TV show Succession ended, Loro Piana searches spiked globally. The appeal wasn't flashy logos or obvious branding. It was the opposite. Wealth that only those who truly understand it can recognize. This shift reflects something deeper than fashion trends. It reflects a growing recognition that visible wealth carries costs that invisible wealth avoids. The practical advantages of looking poor extend into every financial interaction. Negotiation becomes easier when the other party doesn't know your position. A car dealer treats someone in a Honda Civic differently than someone in a Mercedes. A contractor quotes differently based on the neighborhood they're driving into. Warren Buffett once said he never worried about being overcharged because nobody knew he was wealthy. His modest appearance gave him negotiating leverage that flashy consumption would have eliminated. Service providers, salespeople, and contractors all calibrate their prices based on perceived ability to pay. Looking wealthy opens the door to premium pricing. Looking ordinary gets you standard pricing, and over a lifetime of purchases that adds up to significant savings. The person who looks wealthy pays a wealth tax on everything they buy. The person who looks ordinary pays the regular rate. Employment dynamics also favor the invisibly wealthy. Co-workers who perceive you as struggling treat you as an ally. Bosses who perceive you as hungry assume you need the job. Clients who perceive you as modest don't resent your fees. The moment visible wealth enters a professional relationship, the dynamics shift. Colleagues wonder why you're still working if you've already made it. Bosses question your commitment. Clients suspect you're charging too much. The quietly wealthy employee maintains the appearance of needing the job while having the security of not needing it. This is an extraordinarily powerful position. They can take risks that desperate employees cannot take. They can negotiate from strength while appearing to negotiate from need. Family dynamics improve when wealth is invisible. The Millionaire Next Door research found a negative correlation between the amount of funds received and wealth accumulated among children of affluent parents. The more adult children receive from their parents, the less they accumulate through their own efforts. Giving money to adult children sends a subliminal message that the parent doesn't think they can make it on their own. Children fail to distinguish between wealth they generated and wealth received as gifts. They perceive themselves as more productive than they actually are, which creates negative consumption habits. Parents who look wealthy face constant requests for financial support. Children grow up expecting inheritance rather than building their own foundation. Extended family members develop resentment or expectation based on perceived disparity. Parents who look middle class while being quietly wealthy can provide support strategically rather than under social pressure. Their children develop self-reliance because they don't know there's a safety net. Family relationships aren't complicated by visible financial inequality. The psychological benefits of invisible wealth are difficult to quantify, but impossible to ignore. Research on hedonic adaptation shows that increases in wealth create temporary spikes in happiness, but baseline levels return. The BMW is exciting for weeks, then becomes normal. The watch impresses for months, then becomes invisible. All provides a constant sense of security that doesn't adapt away. The person knows they could handle any emergency. They know they could walk away from any situation. They know their future is protected. This background security influences everything. Decisions become less fear-driven. Relationships become less transaction-focused. Sleep becomes less interrupted by financial anxiety. The visibly wealthy person experiences constant pressure to maintain their display. Every year requires new purchases to signal that they're still successful. The treadmill never stops. The invisibly wealthy person experiences no such pressure. They've opted out of the display game entirely. Their identity isn't tied to what they consume. The long-term compounding effects create an ever-widening gap. Someone earning $200,000 annually who saves 25% accumulates $50,000 per year before investment returns. Over 25 years at 7% average returns, that grows to approximately $3.4 million. Someone earning the same $200,000 who saves 5% while spending the rest on visible consumption accumulates $10,000 per year. Over the same period, that grows to approximately $680,000. The first person looks middle class. The second person looks wealthy. The first person actually is wealthy. Or the second person is financially fragile. After 25 years, the invisibly wealthy person has 5 times the net worth of the visible spender. They have options the visible spender cannot imagine. They have security the visible spender will never know. The visible spender has memories of nice things. They have a wardrobe full of luxury items. They have stories about expensive experiences. Both made choices. Only one made choices that compound. The Millionaire Next Door lifestyle represents a fundamental reframe of what success actually means. Success isn't what you can buy. Success is what you don't have to buy. Success isn't the things you own. Success is the freedom you've purchased with money you didn't spend. The 2011 Honda Civic in the parking lot represents something its owner's coworkers will never understand. It represents a choice to value compound growth over social approval. It represents a decision to build security rather than display status. The people who look at that old car and feel superior are the same people who will work until they're 70 because they have no choice. The person driving it could have stopped working tomorrow. Looking poor is a strategic advantage that pays dividends across every dimension of life. It protects your wealth from criminals who target visible affluence. It shields your relationships from financial distortion. It preserves your negotiating position in every transaction. It maintains your children's motivation to build their own success. It provides psychological security without hedonic adaptation. It compounds financial resources without the social pressure to spend. The cost is minimal. Some people will think you have less than you do. Some people will underestimate your success. These are features, not bugs. The goal was never to impress people you don't know. The goal was always to be free. Every millionaire who drives a Toyota understood something most people never figure out. Wealth isn't about what you show. It's about what you keep.